Okay, everybody ready?
Hope so.
All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 10 o'clock. This is October the 13th. Wow. October 13th meeting of the Planning Commission for the City of Denison. I want to welcome everybody here this morning. And the first order of business will be to have roll call.
Chair Charles Shear.
Here.
Spence Redwine.
Here.
Mary Karam.
Here.
Michael Davis.
Here.
And Jan Simpson.
Here.
Thank you.
Before we get started, we'll just do a little housekeeping here this morning. Planning Commission is a recommending body, and with the exception of site plans and plats, our decisions here today will be passed on to City Council for final approval for their next meeting, which will be, Mr. Medina? Monday the 19th. So I'm assuming that this case here will go to P&Z for council for final approval next Monday night, correct? Okay. We're going to give you the opportunity to either speak for or against this case this morning. I'm going to ask that when you come to the lectern that you give us your name and your address for the record, please. And I'm supposed to tell you that we limit each speaker to 3 minutes. But I don't think we have that many folks this morning, so we'll probably be a little forgiving with that. That being said, our first order of business would be to approve the minutes from our meeting on September the 8th. And on our agenda it says take action on September 9th meetings, but that's going to be September the 8th, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Any errors or omissions that was caught by anybody? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
I have a motion with a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, minutes are approved. All right, we'll go to number 4, public hearings. Mr. Medina.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming. This is item 4A, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and make a recommendation on a request for approval of the initial zoning and rezoning of 2 acres, more or less, located at the Manning JMA-G0781 and described as G-0781, and described as G-0781 Manning JMA-G0781 for a zoning change from the current zoning classification of commercial district to multifamily 2, that's MF2 district, for approximately 1.15 acres of the property and to initially zone, if annexed by the city, approximately 0.85 acres of the property as multifamily 2, that's MF2 district, so that the entire 2 acres more or less is zoned multifamily 2, MF2 district, case number 2020-087Z.A. The applicant is pursuing the development of an approximately 30 to 40 unit multifamily development at 2101 Knight Road. The applicant's requesting that the property be initially zoned, that's going to be annexed, to multifamily 2, and then rezone the existing piece from commercial to multifamily 2. And I'll get into some of those steps as we move forward. Staff recommends approval of the requests. Here's a very preliminary rough site plan of the project. As you can see, Knight Road is going to be on the left-hand side there. We're looking at roughly 5 stories with 6, I'm sorry, not 5 stories. That's 5 buildings that are 2 stories with about 6 units each, give or take. As you can see, the applicants already started doing some additional thought as to location of some green space and a dog park. You can see they already have a hammerhead drawn in for fire and emergency access so they can get turned around. This piece right here, the 0.85 acres, this is the subject property that the applicant is requesting be annexed. Speaking with our legal team and working all that out, we've sent notices to the adjacent properties that this triangular piece will be annexed into the city. That item is going before the city council on the 19th, as well as this rezone and initial zoning. So that triangular piece will be brought into the city pending approval of the annexation and zone multifamily 2. While the remaining piece on the bottom, you can see that's labeled 2101 Knight Road in that aerial, and in this zoning, that purple indicates that it's zoned commercial. So the request is to bring the whole piece together as multifamily 2. After pending that approval, we would work with the applicant on platting the property, reviewing a formal site plan, as well as civil engineering plans, utility plans, grading plans, landscaping. The applicant's looking at doing significant tree preservation on site as well. And as a reminder, this body would review and approve the preliminary plat moving forward. As you can see, it's in 2 parcels, so we would bring that together and then include any kind of access, fire easements, anything like that that we're gonna need at that time.
Can you go back to the, yeah, right there. Thank you.
The applicants also, we've been meeting with them periodically when they initially approached us about wanting to be annexed and amend the zoning ordinance for this property. They've agreed to upgrade this part of Knight Road in front of their property to meet the demand of new multifamily development, as well as extend sewer lines to serve the property. The main goal from the applicant, of course, is to construct multifamily development to further serve the additions that we're seeing in our Gateway Village area and our Texoma Medical Center. The dermatology clinic, we just signed a CO on that, so that's going to create additional jobs. This company is wanting to come in and hopefully serve some housing need for those new jobs in the expanding medical center. So I'm present for any questions that you may have, and staff does recommend approval, and this is a public hearing.
Any questions of staff at this point?
And the applicant is present as well, I'd like to point
Okay.
out.
All right. Any questions of staff? All right, we're going to give the applicant an opportunity to come forward at this point.
Good morning. My name is Brian Shibley, and I'm a partner with the property on Knight Road. I currently reside in Dallas, Texas, but I'm enthusiastic about working and doing some business up here in your community. We bought this property with the intention of looking at it as multifamily. We've had meetings with the city staff who have been tremendously helpful and really given us a lot of guidance as what we want to do. Our plan is to, given that property is currently zoned commercial, we thought this was a good exchange because we think there's a bigger need in the city for multifamily than there is for more commercial at this point in time. Our intention is to try and make it relatively low density. We're asking for multifamily 2, which would entitle us up to 40 units. Our plan right now is just to build 30 units because we can place 5 buildings of 6 units per building in there, and we can move them around the existing trees that are there to try and preserve as much nature as possible. Also, if we take more of the site on the north side of the site, running more of the buildings, as you can see by our site plan, we preserve more of the natural environment to it. The site plan does not currently have a retaining pond, which we know we need to do, and I've informed the architects and engineers that we're going to have to create a retaining pond to retain the water. So part of that park will probably become a pond as well to allow us to do that. We've met with the fire marshal, and everything that we've drawn here is in compliance with what they want. And our intention is to try to be a good neighbor, make it low density, move the buildings around. As you can see, we didn't try to just create them all linear and create great mass. We're trying to preserve the site and make it feel as residential and as single family subdivision as we can. And that's why we also limited the buildings to 2 stories. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions of the applicant? I don't see any.
Great, appreciate it. Thank you, Tom.
Hang tight, we may need you before it's over. I do have one question for staff at this point. Bill, in this particular case, will the applicant be required to come back for site plan approval on this project?
For preliminary plat approval, they would, not for site plan.
Okay.
Now, we as staff always has that option of bringing it before the board for approval, and if that's something that you want to see, we can definitely make that happen.
Well, we have a preliminary site plan. I have absolutely no idea what the buildings are going to look like, what the architecture is going to be. landscape plan would be important for us to review as well, just to make sure that, that what we're approving here today, if we decide to do so, that we would be able to make sure that the quality of the development is what we're looking for.
Agreed, and right now our ordinance states that site plans and plats within our overlay districts, that is the highway overlay primarily and historic area, have to come through Planning and Zoning Commission, but it gives us the option and says they may also staff may take them before you guys. So I can work with the applicant, and I'm sure they're listening as well. I think they'd agree we can get the site plan with elevations and landscaping with the plat.
I think I would like to see it.
Okay.
Come back, let us take a look at that.
I'll make note. That'll be in the minutes as well, and we'll make sure we do that.
Okay. All right, anyone else here to speak in favor of this request? Anyone here to speak in opposition? I've got two cards. Is Fred Stevens here this one? Would you like to come forward, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning, Commission.
Morning.
My name is Fred Stevens. I'm here with my wife, Becky Stevens. We live at 2201 Knight Road. We are the property adjacent on the west side. We are opposed, and I don't have a lot of comments. I have some questions. This is my first experience with something like this, so am I allowed to ask questions? Sure. So based on the comments that I've heard so far, the plan was for a 40-unit development, and they're talking about 30 units, so I'm assuming these are going to be apartments. Is that the correct assumption? That's correct, yes. 5 or 6 individual structures? 5 structures, yes. 5 structures, okay. We are particularly concerned how close these structures would be on the north side, which is the side that butts up to our L-shaped property. Can anybody answer that question?
Is your address?
I think it's on the tax rolls as 2169.
Okay, that's what.
But the mailbox
okay,
says
yeah,
2201.
All right. Yeah, that's what I was
Okay,
wondering.
that's what's confusing.
Well, no wonder y'all were looking at me like that.
We see 2021.
Like, you don't live around here.
Yeah, it's on the
Okay.
tax rolls, it's 2169.
We're good there. 2169. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Anyway, from the picture that I can see here from the triangle that you guys are looking to annex, that north side is our property. If you guys can see that little dirt road, rock road there to the west, that's literally our driveway. To the west of that yellow rectangle, that's our driveway. And you see how it turns right to the east? Our carport is literally 5 foot from that fence line. So that's why we're really concerned about where these structures are going to be placed. We purchased that property about 10 years ago. It's 17 acres. We have a considerable financial investment in that. 2/3 of that property is wooded. It was purchased because of its natural nature. You got 30 apartment complexes. You got 60 cars. What are the plans to do with the road? Are you going to widen the entire road, or just the part that's in front of his apartment complex?
Mr. Stevens, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
You realize that the property right now is zoned commercial?
I did not know that. I've talked to the people that owned our property 30 years ago. I've heard something that it was, at one time it was a dairy farm or something, but I did not know that until now.
Okay. So the present zoning is commercial. And what I think that are allowed by ordinance in a commercial zoning, you read that list and it's gonna make you go, well, maybe a multifamily residential development is not as bad as what I thought it was. Because you could wind up with a commercial use that would be much more detrimental to your property values and to your day-to-day life than this apartment complex will be. And there's not a cotton picking thing we can do about it. If it's within this ordinance and it's within the use schedule, they can go get their permit and build it, never have to come see us. You know, they're gonna bring a site plan in for us to review, but we're gonna have to I mean, if it's within the guidelines of what we have established in that commercial zoning, then they have it. So you might want to get with staff or go online and just review the uses that are allowed by ordinance in there. And it might change your
Opposition.
your thinking. Yeah. Now, I think one of the things that possibly you folks could do is get with the applicant and discuss words like screening, okay?
Fencing.
And landscaping. That's the two things that can create that separation to where they're not obtrusive to your day-to-day life in any way. These guys are developing obviously a very expensive project. They're investing a tremendous amount of money in this. And I don't think I'm going off the deep end here when I make the statement that they're good businessmen and they'll be willing to sit down at the table with you guys because they've already said they want to be good neighbors. And so I think that would be step one, is to get with them and say, these are our concerns. How can we work around these? But I really think that when you're looking at a residential use, even though it is multifamily, it's a low-density multifamily. They're not high-rise apartments. You go look at the commercial uses and what's allowed and the heights that are allowed. They could build a pretty good-sized building looking right over into your yard every day and every night if they chose to do so. So that would be my suggestion. And then get with staff and with the applicants and you guys try to work out a compromise where you guys would be comfortable and they can get comfortable as well.
Well, a thought that comes to mind for me too is the access to the development as opposed to the access of your driveway. I think decisions in that process would be really important also. And I don't know who's responsible for all of the roads in Bill Medina. That would be a big question, I think, that could enter into this discussion.
I believe you already stated that we're going to upgrade the road from, I guess, from the highway frontage to the entrance to it.
That's correct. And we're meeting with Public Works really soon. Once we get the full site plan and we have a clear picture that's kind of more nailed down than the preliminary zoning phase, we'll be able to put together kind of what capacity this road will need to be. On our master thoroughfare plan, we rely on that heavily to give us direction on what size the road needs to be, but Knight Road's not listed. So it'll probably be about 50 feet or so total width. We probably won't pick up the entire right-of-way on just this one piece during the plat, but it'll at least set us up for the future development as
So
well.
the access to the development would just be at Knight Road, it wouldn't be,
Correct.
there wouldn't be any side entrances or anything like that?
That's correct.
It's only got one entrance into the
Yeah.
project. Which surprises me that the fire department agreed to that, but
Yeah, well, that was, I'm making a question here. I don't know.
lucky y'all, if it'd been one of my cases, I would've never got it done.
So the plan for road construction is actually going to stop where their property ends on the west side? Is that my understanding? Can you go back to that,
Yeah, so it won't go to your property, it'll stop
on their western edge?
on their edge, that's correct.
And the initial plan, I'm assuming, is to widen that for increased traffic?
Yeah, because we wanted to make sure that we avoid
told this is gonna be a quality project, we wanna see a visual of the fact that it's gonna be quality.
I understand.
So,
And we also understand that, you know, that there's a substantial investment already been made by the applicants.
Sure.
They've spent money already.
absolutely.
But we've been good citizens of Denison for 20 years too, so we've spent some money too.
Well,
so.
and we appreciate that, and we appreciate you coming down here this morning with the concern. That,
Yes, sir.
We are not in any way, shape, form, or fashion neglecting to hear what you're saying to us, okay? Regardless of the outcome of today, we welcome your comments.
And he should be notified when the
Yes,
site plan
yeah,
comes
that
in.
notification will go out to you, so you'll be able to be a part of that. But again, the two things I'm gonna recommend that you guys do is, number one, go to the website and look at the commercial zoning and look at the uses that are on there, okay? And that's what could happen, okay, without any opposition whatsoever. Second thing is, get with staff, get with the applicants, and y'all try to work some compromise out as far as screening and those kind of things to make your day-to-day life more private and theirs as well.
Yeah, my wife and I are both approaching our retirement years. We had hoped to spend that in relative quiet.
Yeah, and I still think you will. I don't think this is going to be a real noisy kind of development. The cost of per square foot for the rental of these units, I can assure you, is not going to be the point to where, you know, you're gonna have an element in there that's gonna be, you know, not desirable. These are gonna be more expensive units to rent. Am I right, guys? When I said that? So.
I'm sorry? No.
Right, no, exactly. So you're looking at a completely different animal. I think that the folks that are, if you go out and look at the product at Gateway Village, out there, the apartments out there, you look at that,
Or the ones on Lloyd Lake Road.
Yeah.
The ones on Lloyd Lake.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. I think that's the product that, if you go look at those, I think that's what you're gonna see when they come back to us with the site plan. And I
Are
wish,
y'all developing those also?
No.
but I assure you that those have not been a detriment to the city at all. And we welcome them, as a matter of fact, because we do need more multifamily in Denison. We don't have enough.
Are these gonna be multi-level or just regular?
Two-story.
Just two-story, yeah.
So-
And the ones at Gateway, I think, are three-story units. And I think maybe the ones on Lloyd Lake are three-story. So, but these will be less density than those are. That's a higher density development. So, but the product, what I want you to do is look at the actual physical structures themselves and kind of give you an idea.
And the one over on Gateway is kind of our thought process on that one.
Right.
Right.
There you go. All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
you,
for coming
sir.
down, Steve. Appreciate you. Charles Ray, if you'd like to come forward, sir?
How y'all gentlemen today?
Good.
Good, sir.
Would you give us?
Well, I'm
your-
about as nervous as a woodpecker on a flagpole.
No, well, don't be nervous. Would you give us your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, sir. Charles Ray, REA, 2219 Knight Road.
All right, thank you, sir. And don't be nervous, we're just folks.
I know that, but I'm not used to this. We bought our place back about, 12 years ago. And it was closed up, and we went in, and we've been working on it, and we've got it, we replumbed and rewired our whole house. I'm right there where that pond is. Right there at the White Austin Stone House. And it's a nice neighborhood. And that road, that whole road is 1 block long, and it won't support that kind of traffic, the length of it. And you can't tell me they just won't come in that end. 2 cars cannot go down that road in a lot of places. That one has to stop for the other, or they're in the ditch. And
But
that's
you do
bad.
understand that the road's getting widened.
Just a part of it.
Well, it's gonna be widened.
It won't be supportive of the rest of it when they go that way.
Well, they're not gonna go back that way.
Oh, they
They're gonna
won't?
take some parkways where they'll go to go to the.
You never go this different way when you go somewhere?
Well,
I'm just saying though, the road won't support it. None of that road will.
I think that in this particular case, that these people are gonna come out to a divided highway versus going, you know, back to the west. I think that will be the main flow of traffic for this particular development.
Well, I drive different routes all the time, going the same place, just for the change of scenery. But I just, if I knew that it would add value to my neighborhood, I'd be all for it. But I used to do remodeling in Dallas. And I just never seen the value of anything go up with building these multi-family projects.
Bill, would you bring me the commercial zoning list, please?
Y'all did, well, we were commercial and we got a variance to put it back residential back in about 2010 on that master planning deal. And my wife found that. I wish she'd been here because she's done this. She's had a real estate license and everything. But she had an
Which way?
appointment.
This way. Okay,
But I'm talking about just like a regular house would add value to that neighborhood, or two houses. But you start putting them in, they don't bring no value to the neighborhood. For it's, you know, a residential area, because that's what it is. There's not one lick of commercial there.
well, when I'm looking at this, here's things that could be built on that piece of property without any kind of say-so whatsoever. You could have an auto body shop could come in there, paint body shop could come in there with a conditional use permit. An automobile dealership could come in. Gasoline service station could come in. Automotive repair.
Well, they were gonna do that across the street there at the rodeo place.
There's just a whole slew of uses that can be built right there next door to you that I don't think you're gonna really, you know, for example, a ballroom dancing facility is allowed by ordinance. So that could be a honky-tonk right next door to you. Now, that could either be good or that could be bad, one of the two, who knows? But
We had
there's just
one
a
there
lot
for
of
a while.
things, there's a lot of things in there, Mr. Ray, and that's why I was telling Mr. Stevens, there's a lot of things that can go in there without any kind of opposition or any kind of control from the city whatsoever, that are gonna be a whole lot worse to you and your property values than these residential apartment units. And, you know, when we look at us from and understand where our decision has to be made, is we are responsible for, land use. That is basically what this commission's whole purpose is. Is it a
Everybody
good
grows.
use for that particular parcel of land? And we have guidelines to go by. There's a comprehensive zoning map that the city had put together, and I believe we did the last one in 2018, where we take every piece of property in this town, and we sit down and we figure out what is the best uses for that particular piece of property. And in my opinion, when I've got folks living around a project, and they've invested their time and their money, like you have and like Stevens have, in order to create a home place, then I feel like when I look at what's the best land use for this particular site, and in my opinion, it's a residential use. It's less obtrusive to you guys.
No.
You see what I'm saying? Now, I could be up here and be one of these guys that sits on a board that says, nah, let's go put a commercial use in there. It'll generate more tax dollars for the city or whatever. I could be that way, but I'm not. I'm trying to protect the developers who are coming into our city to spend money, but at the same time, respect my citizens. That's what our job here is to do.
Yeah.
And so when we look at this particular case and we look at what the staff is telling us, we look at what the comprehensive zoning plan tells us, it's a pretty easy decision. It's a no-brainer that this is probably the least obtrusive and best use for this particular And so, you know, that's why I say if you guys will just sit down with the applicant, you can probably fix a lot of what's going to be concerns to you. And they're probably going to be good neighbors to you when it's all said and done. So, you know, I don't know what else to, tell you. But have you got any other questions for any of us?
No, I just know that road won't support people
And
going up.
staff is meeting with Public Works right
Huh?
now. The staff is meeting with Public Works.
I'm talking about the whole street.
Yeah.
It
Well,
won't support those extra cars going up and down it.
I think what'll happen in our Public Works and Transportation, they will do some due diligence
Yeah.
to determine what needs to be done on the widening of that road from that project to Texoma Parkway to keep that traffic from being,
It's a nice little road. I mean, I like it. It just doesn't look like a city street.
and it's not. And it's
I
not
tell them
open.
every time they're
So-
patching them holes, leave some of them empty, just slows the drivers down. It
All
does.
right, thank you, Mr. Ray, we appreciate you coming down. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak on this request? Yes, sir.
James Carter.
Just come to the front, James, and give us your name and address at the front.
James Carter, 2021 Knight Road. For the most part, I'm not against it. I actually already thought we were residential. I'm the property on the east side, which until recently, that's what caught me about the notice the most was I felt like I missed a conversation somewhere. I thought I was residential, but apparently I'm commercial since we are rezoning 2101 back to a residential. So I'm all for residential. I agree, commercial, it could be about anything. I haven't noticed the reflection like in my tax or anything like that, so until I got this notice, I didn't know that I was zoned commercial. And I don't know if maybe it's because maybe I'm grandfathered, maybe if I ever sell the property, then I don't know.
Well, if you sell the property, you have to go back and do a zoning change to residential.
Okay.
We're running into that over on the northeast side of the town.
I just assumed it's like, as soon as it was zoned commercial, my taxes would go up. So, like I said, I've lived there since roughly about 2007. So, like I said, when I purchased it, I thought I was, for the most part, zoned residential. I know, for the most part, that whole area is kind of an odd area, because if anything else, my front yard's in the city, my backyard's in county. So, which is one reason I have a burn pile, which, with apartments, that may interfere with that, unless everybody wants to have a campfire. But no, I'm for the residential. I'm just more concerned about, I guess, how that affects me, because if anything else, if they're residential, and I'm commercial, it's like,
Well, right now, you don't have to worry about anything.
Right.
It's just if you get ready to sell your place, then that's when you'll have to come back and see us, and we'll have to do a zoning change.
okay.
Like the folks did over here, was it Mr. Ray, I think? They rezoned their property to
I was
residential.
real good about changing mine.
Okay.
They did it over the telephone. It took about 4 or 5 calls.
Oh, okay, so it's not like another meeting like this or anything like that?
Well-
Okay,
They may have told, but it does have to go through the process.
Oh,
for the
okay.
zoning change, so,
okay.
Yeah, but, yeah, and I mean, we've got light industrial across the street from us here. I mean,
Yes.
it's not a, again, I really think that we are, it's lesser of the evils.
I don't disagree with that. Seeing the plan, it's a lot more than what I was expecting. I was expecting maybe 1 or 2 houses, which even with that, I was kind of wondering how that was going to be possible. Because if anything else, my house, I'm on septic. So if anything else, that would be my concern is if, for that amount of facilities, most likely, and I think Jerry touched on it, you're going to bring in utilities, would I have the opportunity to
Yes, sir.
get on sewage? Okay.
Now, you get to pay the tap fee to tap into it, but yes,
Okay.
you would be able to tap into the sewer main.
Well, at some point, I was probably going to have to get a larger septic tank. It's like, I have a smaller septic tank, so if anything else, with washing machines, shower, stuff like that, it's just not adequate. So if
No,
anything else,
you would be able to tap into it and the water.
I have water.
Okay.
It just, yeah, as far as sewage, yeah, for the most part, I have septic, so, but that was one of my concerns, like, for the most part, since I'm on septic, for the no utilities is going to the property next to me, so you have to run lateral lines and all that, so I wasn't sure. So this is quite a bit more. It's very nice. It's a lot more than what I was really expecting, but again, in the long range, I'd rather have it residential than commercial, so.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak? Yes, sir.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Randy Price. I'm currently living with Stevens, Mr. Stevens and Ms. Stevens. Bear with me. I'm under some medication. You know, I got some stuff. I'm on disability, and one of the reasons I moved out there because it's in the country. You know, to get peace of mind and quiet. And I see that Mr. Shear has made up his mind on some things and has been straightforward, so I'm gonna do the same thing.
Well, let me correct you before you say I've made up my mind.
Well, you said it's a no-brainer that that's the best.
No, I didn't say my mind was made up.
Yeah, you said it was a
No,
no-brainer that that's
sir,
the best use. Okay,
This is my meeting, okay?
okay.
Now, we're not gonna get into a debate, but let me tell you what I said, okay? When I look at the commercial uses that are allowed, and I've explained this, okay, listen closely. When I said what was allowed in there for a residential area, which this folks have, this gentleman has, okay? Now, they are living in the midst of a zoned commercial area. Right across Knight Road, it's worse. It's zoned light industrial, okay? So those uses are even worse than what's allowed in commercial. Now, when I say they're worse, I mean they're worse for people who are residents of that district. They're not worse as far as business is concerned. But when you're living in the middle of it, what can be built there is much worse than another residential use.
Could be a house.
Could it be a house?
No, it could be.
Could be,
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
But nobody wants to build a house there.
We don't know that.
Well, obviously we do.
We'll buy it
because
right
nobody's
now.
done it.
We'll buy that property
Okay.
today.
You will?
Yep.
Well, there the gentlemen are, see if they're willing to sell it to you.
Okay. Well, he's gonna want through the roof.
That's his prerogative, sir. It's his
Exactly.
property, okay?
Okay, well,
Now, I make decisions not on my personal preference. I make decisions that are supported by rules and regulations and guidelines that have been set and approved by the leadership and the council of the city. And when I say they're ordinances, that means they're a law,
I understand that.
okay? That means they're not something I can change. They're put into place, and they're put in place for a reason. And that reason is so that we can make an objective decision, okay? Now, I haven't made my decision. I don't make my decision until the very end, okay? But I do read this stuff, and I do study this stuff before I come down here because I need guidelines on helping me to develop that decision. And if you missed my comment a few minutes ago where I said that I'm not only concerned about the developer, but I'm concerned about my citizens and the people that I live with in this town, I take that very seriously. And I take offense to you coming in here and making the comment that you just made a few minutes ago.
Okay, I've listened to you now. May I speak?
Sure, you go right ahead.
Okay. Well, with all due respect, you know, we take offense to, you know, I mean, I've lived in Dallas and Los Angeles, and I've lived in the big cities, but, you know, you got people from Dallas, you know, he comes in here and say he's doing it for Denison. He's not doing it for Denison, he's doing it for the money. You know, that's what everybody does this for, they do it for the money. But, and I don't know, Fred, how much have you paid in taxes since you've been there? 50, 60, 70 grand. Well, he's, you know, anyway, I think it's wrong to compare it to a commercial property, because that's not what's going in there. We're not comparing apples to apples, you know. You're saying it could be commercial and it could be bad. Well, yeah, it could be a single-family residence too. You know, so we don't know what could be. But, you know, us and a lot of people, it's just a country road, you know, and we was thinking, okay, maybe a duplex coming in here, that'd be bad enough, a couple of those. And then we come in today and hear this massive thing. It's kind of put us in shock, to be honest with you.
Do you understand that in order for them to build duplexes in there, we have to rezone the property to multifamily?
Yeah, which is what you're doing anyway.
So you just made the statement, we thought a couple of duplexes, that'd be okay.
No, I thought we could live with that, as opposed to, we're not gonna have no choice. But a couple of duplexes as opposed to, I don't know, what do you say, 40 units? You know, that
would be the maximum, would be.
Well, they're going for the maximum, they're not. It says all 2.0 acres for multifamily, so. But anyway, man, that's my point, you know, I didn't mean to ruffle your feathers or nothing, but to me, that's my opinion. I'm allowed.
You're entitled to it.
For my opinion, you know.
You're entitled to it. And sometimes opinions have no basis.
Well,
and
sometimes they do.
I can't sit up here and make a decision
Yeah.
on an opinion. I have to have a basis to go off of.
Yeah.
And you need to understand that.
Well, you need to understand where we're coming from too.
I do.
We both got to understand each
do.
other.
That's why I've made the statements with Mr. Stevens, Mr. Ray, both, and Mr. Carter. Get with the developer. Voice your concerns with them. They're trying to be good neighbors. Sit down and try to work up a compromise.
It's not going to work.
You don't
They're not going to come from 40 units. They got plans and investments. They're not going to go from 40 to 15 because it hurts our feelings.
They just submitted a site plan to us that shows 30.
Okay.
They said in their testimony, we're allowed 40, but we're not going to build 40.
30's nothing makes us too happy, no ways.
I understand that. But if you would sit down with them and work together, you can come up with a compromise that's going to be helpful.
Okay. Well, I respectfully disagree. And with that, I will bow out.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else here to speak this morning? Would the applicant like to come back and rebut anything? You got anything else to add?
I don't have any rebuttals. I appreciate your comments, and I think you're right. I mean, we did look at the commercial zoning, and we can build update stories. So we agree with you that this is a good compromise for a property that we own and we want to take advantage of. I would just like to reiterate your comments that we're more than willing even today to sit down with you, discuss it, and shift things around. We want to move forward with this project, but at the same time, you know, we do want to be good neighbors, and we thought we had designed a site plan that was complementary to the properties around us and not infringing upon you. If the one building in the one corner is out of place and is giving you the most heartache, let's talk about it, because the reason we don't have a formal site plan for you to review with elevations is because we wanted to have this exact conversation, and we wanted to have the ability to understand that we are going to be allowed, one, to go forward before we spend a lot of money on architectures and planning, and also because this is preliminary, we can move around pretty easily without it having a huge, you know, cost to us. So that was the reason why you don't have as much detail as you would like, but as it's turning out, it's probably to everybody's benefit. And so we are definitely willing to sit down with our neighbors and talk to them and find out if there's a way we can, maybe not everybody thrilled, but get them more at peace with it.
Okay.
That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you sharing that testimony. Anyone else here to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any discussion among the commission?
We're just rezoning today. So
We are rezoning, and we're not participating in the annexation process, are we?
No, that's correct. You're also voting or acting on initially zoning the piece outside the city, pending annexation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion, gentlemen, ladies.
I move to recommend approval of initially zoning the approximate .85 acres to multifamily 2 and rezoning of 2101 Knight Road from commercial to multifamily -2 2, so that the entire 2 acres, more or less, is zoned multifamily 2 district.
Second.
I have a motion with a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I think that's all the business we have in front of us today. Do we have any staff updates?
Thank you. Just a quick staff update. I don't have any drawings or maps right now, but stay tuned. I'm working on a project with our city manager to rezone some of our troubled areas north of Maine and east of Austin that have historically been commercial or retail, but they should be residential. So we'll be working on that, and I'll keep everybody updated as we move forward for our next meeting.
Hey, we had talked about this, you and I did the other day. Let's go back and re-examine our fence ordinance.
Okay.
I know we did that not too long ago, but I think we need to go back because I think there are certain uses of certain types of fencing that we're not making legal that are better options than some of them that are. So I would like for us to look at those different samples and
Okay.
see if we can't amend that a little bit.
Understood. One of the things to keep in mind too, and we're going to try to reach out to our legal team for a legal opinion, is are we even allowed to regulate the type of material used for fencing, given House Bill 2439, I believe, which kind of took away some of our control over dictating or allowing to manage, regulate
Deed
rather.
restriction.
Yeah, through deed restriction you could,
Right.
but we probably need to get a legal opinion if we can enforce that.
All right.
I have a question too, just, on the decision we made, I should have written it down, but I didn't. When we talked about auxiliary buildings, what was the percentage that we decided?
Well, it's 40, wasn't it?
It's
It's
40.
40% of the main structure.
Yes.
That's pretty high.
40% of the main structure.
And as a quick follow-up to that, referring to the residential infill ordinance update, well, if you didn't hear, that was approved and that was adopted. The council did approve with conditions, stating that if you're wanting to build anything bigger than a duplex, triplex, or quadplex, you'd have to come back before this body for a conditional use permit.
Should anyway.
What's
It
that?
should anyway.
Yeah.
Same way with the tiny houses.
Yeah, so that was included, so site plan and conditional use permit with triplex, quadplex, and tiny homes. And basically anything bigger than duplex.
All right, that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Seeing as that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, motion Mary, second by Spence. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned at 10:49 a.m. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr.
Thank
Stevens.
you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
How's Mr. Doug doing?
He's doing okay.
Is he still doing his ministry work or not?
No,
You handled that
no,
very well, like I knew you would.
You are?
I don't know what that verse is.
no, not really. Yeah, he does, well, he does some stuff on the internet.